Hi.
Hey.
Today we're going to be discussing a bit of a deep topic in the area of being cheated on. Fortunately, as far as I know, I don't have experience of that, but Phil does, unfortunately. So I'm going to be asking him some personal questions. So, my first question is, I hope you feel comfortable answering. How did you feel when you first found out?
Put it this way, up until that time, I had never experienced anybody dying. I had never experienced great loss or huge disappointment in my life. So when I found out that I had been cheated on, it was by far the worst experience, feeling that I have had.
The saddest.
The saddest. The saddest. It literally felt like somebody had died. There was nothing I could do to make myself feel comfortable. It was like having it's like someone just sliced your butt open and then you can't sit then you can't sit down properly, because every time you sat down it was sore. It was like having a stomach ache that no matter how you laid down, your stomach was always feeling ill. Whenever I forgot about it, it was always in the back of my mind that there's something that I'm sad about. It wasn't nice.
Like physical hurt.
Yeah,
emotional, physical, psychological.
Yeah.
And how did you get through that initial stage of hurt?
It was a strange one, because I never. On one side, I wanted to lie down, wrap up in the duvet, and just drink a cup of hot chocolate in front of the TV, just all on my own. And then on the other side of it, I wanted to be out somewhere where it was loud music and just loads of people. So it was like there was no in between. I just didn't know what I want. Both scenarios sounded great to me from one moment to the next. But I did have one good friend who lived in Birmingham at the time. He lives in Blackpool now, so he would know who he is. And he spent a lot of time hanging around at my house, and I remember we used to play loads of games together, and this once I was playing and I just started crying. He couldn't even see my face, and he's not even a sensitive guy. He might be, his girl might say that he is, but to lads he's not a sensitive guy. And he was like, I can't remember his exact words, but he was very comforting. He's like, "Come on, Phil, don't cry, just we'll get through it," kind of thing. And I'll always remember that. He was a good person to have around. So always try and have somebody around, I would say.
Do you think that the whole experience made you not be able to trust anyone in the future and have not be able to have a meaningful relationship? Has it affected it in any way?
That's a good question. When it happened, in the months after it, I had a strong feeling that I would never be able to fully trust another girl again. And my mind went through some weird places where I would think that, I'm sure that girls think the same thing about lads as well, but I used to think that girls in general just cannot be trusted. And I'd hear stories in the newspaper, or I used to read the newspaper, the columns, like the Dear Deirdre columns, and they'd say things like, "Oh, my girlfriend is doing this and doing that and doing what," boyfriend as well sometimes. And it used to fill me with disgust to hear about it. And then whenever I heard the word cheating, it filled me with disgust and anger, because it brought back the feelings that I had. So yeah, to answer your question, when it happened, there were two paths that I could have taken. And I actively, mentally chose to take the second path. The first path that I could have taken was always looking at my girlfriend's phone whenever I had a girlfriend, always checking who she's speaking to, never let her speak to any males, that kind of thing. But I made the mental decision that when I had a girlfriend, I did not want to allow my experiences to cause me to behave like that. So what I did was, I said to myself, I'm not going to get into a relationship until I know the person, or I am confident. You can never be 100% sure, but I'm never going to get into a relationship until I'm confident that this girl is not going to do me harm in that sort of way. And it hindered me in a way. It was good and it was bad, because it stopped me from getting into a relationship for quite a long time. But on the other side, I knew that when I did get into a relationship, there was a higher chance that it would work. So while I wasn't going to be checking up on my girlfriend or reading her messages and making sure she's not talking to men, at the same time I told myself that I'm not, as soon as the smallest thing happens to make me suspect that she would be disloyal to me in that sort of way, I'll be cutting ties, simply because of simply from a self-preservation point of view. So from a personal point of view, have I lived up to that with you, would you say?
Yeah, of course.
So,
that kid face.
I don't want to be a controlling person, and I didn't want to allow that to. Yeah, I didn't want to allow the experiences to make me a controlling person, but at the same time, I didn't want to be a chump. I didn't want to be, that guy who's cheated on, and he's seen as a bit of a wimp. I wasn't going to take that stand, and so it was a balance,
So would you say then that you have fully healed?
Yes. I think it's going to be a real big cliche now, but time really does heal. You know what? I wouldn't change anything. I actually, now looking back, say my past self would have kicked me for saying this, but looking back, I wouldn't change anything because what has happened has made me into the person that I am now. This is the analogy that I like to use. If you imagine there's a dead body and it's buried.
It's a very strong analogy.
Imagine there's a dead body and it's buried. It's buried and it's forgotten about. You come back to that dead body in a month's time and you start digging. The smell's going to start to come out, isn't it? If you bury it, come back in a year's time and start digging, there may be a little bit of a smell, but it's going to be a bit more less of a smell. I liken getting out of a traumatic relationship experience to be like that. So for example, now 6 months after it happened, I would have thought, yeah, I'm healed, I've forgotten about it now. But if I was to look at photographs or someone was to speak about the person and I started to remember the person, the smell will start to come back up again, and they'd evoke memories and emotions that I never thought I had. If I was to speak about it now like I am now, I have no feelings towards what happened. I have no regrets about what happened because, like I said, it made me who I am. And if that didn't happen, I wouldn't be with you as I am now.
So then, does that mean that you'd recommend you also maybe delete those old photos? Because you mentioned, that would cause the smell to come back. So would you keep stuff from that person?
In the initial stages of it happening, anyone that's just getting out of that kind of relationship, or they've been cheated on, or it's a bad breakup, I would suggest deleting everything. I'd suggest deleting everything and cutting all kinds of contact. It sounds hard.
Help yourself.
Yeah. It sounds hard. It sounds harsh, but I believe from that relationship, the best thing that we did was to cut it off, because we were going to continue talking. We were going to, just be friends, but that can't happen. At least not in the first 5, 6, 7 years. That can't happen because there will always be an element of emotion there that can be reignited, maybe for the positive, but still it will always drag the negative with it, of that experience with it. So
that's a good one. Maybe that will be an discussion for another time. Can you be a good friend with your ex?
Maybe so.
Okay, I have another question for you. So did you forgive the person?
When it first happened, I'm not going to lie, it was hard to see past that kind of transgression. But do I forgive her now? Gosh, yes. I think it's important to forgive anybody. This sounds easier said than done, but I think it's very important to forgive anyone that has caused that kind of hurt to you, because if you don't forgive them, there is no way, and if you don't forgive them and really forgive them, there is no way for you to personally move on forward.
I agree.
When you forgive them, it's like a release that's happened.
Yeah.
And if I was to see this person on the street now, I'm not saying we're going to be best friends and exchange phone numbers and go out, but I'll be like, oh, how you doing? I sincerely hope you're well. I have a adult conversation with them. That's the kind of place I'm at now in my head. It's important to forgive. Yeah,
because you also remember that if you don't forgive, really that is eating only you, not the other person. The other person's life is going on, and they might sometimes remember about your existence and think, oh, you know, maybe I didn't act right or I didn't do right, but there definitely wouldn't be as hurt as you, and you just be hurting yourself maybe.
On top of that, I want to make the distinction. There's a difference between forgiving and forgetting. What I mean by that, say you were to lend someone your car and they crashed your car, an accident, and it was like, oh, I'm sorry, yeah, forgive them, but you haven't forgotten in the sense that you wouldn't let them drive your car again. So, you know, you can forgive, but learn from your mistakes moving forward, and don't forget how it happened so that you can prevent it happening again, ideally.
And the last one, which is again a bit deep, why do you think it happened to you, the cheating, and do you think you had any fault, if that's even a word that we can use here?
I had sat down and thought to myself what happened, and after it happened, I do think she mentioned some things, like she did say that there were problems. I can't remember what the problems were, but I do remember at the time thinking that when she mentioned these problems, I remember thinking that it wasn't an excuse for cheating. I would much rather, if there's a problem in a relationship, A, we speak about it and try and get over it, or C, worst case scenario, end the relationship and then continue with your life.
What about B?
B, end the relationship and then move forward. Sure, ending it is going to hurt, ending it's going to be a world of pain, but it's 1,000 times better than cheating while you're in there.
Yeah,
it's 1,000 times better.
If you're in an exclusive relationship, then you have the understanding from the beginning, which is how you build your trust, that you would be with that person only.
Yeah.
If, you know, it's a different type of relationship, it's a whole other question, but we were created to be, you know, to be monogamous, and to be one, to get a man and a woman to get together and to become one. So, you know, and it just feels right. It just feels different, and the love that you experience being in a relationship, and that relationship growing into marriage, is not something that you'd want to, you know, throw away because you find somebody super attractive, and for that one night or 1 hour of whatever pleasure, you would throw away years of absolute blissful happiness that cannot compare to that 1 hour, not only in time but in experience, in deepness of love, and so on.
Imagine having a glass of water and then putting 1 drop of Ribena in there. That Ribena has then defiled that glass, right? No matter how many times you pour the water out, split it in half, pour it again, split it in half, there will always be a drop of Ribena in there. It could never again be as pure as it was in the beginning. Now, forgiveness may come, people may, you know, try to rekindle it, some even say that the relationship is better than it was before, but it never would be.
It doesn't matter, like, it doesn't have to be like before though. If you can move on and forgive, you should, you know, try.
Yeah, moving on and forgiving, yeah, but think about it. Okay, think about it this way. Right now, in our relationship, right, I can look at you and I can have like really strong feelings for you. I can think, you know, just from you doing something silly like eating, I can look at you and like, oh, she's so beautiful, you know, I can love you like that. I'm sure that maybe there's things about me that you feel the same way about. Now, if you were to cheat on me, right, and we tried to make it work afterwards, and I looked at you and you were doing something that I loved you doing before, I can imagine that I can feel the warm feelings for you, but then I'd remember what happened and it would suddenly block me having that feeling. Like I wouldn't feel that it deserved coming out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, yeah.
So I'm guessing maybe it will take, after 10 years, after 10 years of no cheating again, maybe we can get to that stage again where I can look at you and in complete freedom just release my love for you doing those silly little things. But it would be so hard and it would take so long. So, you know, it's better just to not get there in the first place.
We really appreciate when you leave your comments on our videos, because it's a conversation, and, you know, sometimes things are better said out loud and discussed. So yeah, share your thoughts.